On April 24th, 2025, the world watched in horror. Russia launched a massive aerial assault on Kyiv. It was a stark reminder of the ongoing conflict. The attack shattered any semblance of peace. It plunged Ukraine further into chaos. This wasn't just another attack, it was a clear escalation. Sirens blared throughout the city. Civilians scrambled for shelter. The streets of Kyiv, once bustling with life, were now eerily silent, except for the sounds of explosions. The attack came as a shock to many. Just a day earlier, there had been whispers of peace talks. Now those hopes seemed dashed. The world held its breath, waiting to see how the international community would respond. The attack on Kyiv was brutal and indiscriminate. Nearly 70 missiles rained down on the city. Drones, over 150 of them, added to the chaos. They targeted critical infrastructure. Power grids were knocked out, communication lines went down. Kyiv was plunged into darkness. The human cost was staggering. At least 12 people were confirmed dead. Over 90 were injured. The numbers were expected to rise. Hospitals, already overwhelmed by the ongoing war, struggled to cope. Thousands of terrified residents fled underground. They sought refuge in Kyiv's metro stations. The images were reminiscent of the early days of the war. It was a stark reminder of the human toll of this conflict. In the aftermath of the attack, all eyes turned to Washington. How would the US respond? The answer came swiftly in the form of a tweet from President Trump. "Vladimir, stop," he wrote, in what seemed like a direct plea to the Russian leader. This was a marked departure from Trump's previous stance on the conflict. He had often been criticized for his perceived closeness to Putin. His earlier statements on the war had been ambiguous at best. This time, however, his message was clear. The world took notice. Was this a sign that Trump was finally willing to take a stand against Russia, or was it just another example of his unpredictable foreign policy? Adding to the complexity of the situation was Trump's stance towards Ukrainian President Zelensky. Just hours before the attack on Kyiv, Trump had publicly criticized Zelensky. He questioned the Ukrainian leader's handling of the war. This criticism came as a surprise to many. Zelensky had been widely praised for his defiance in the face of Russian aggression. He had become a symbol of Ukrainian resistance. Trump's words seemed to undermine the Ukrainian leader at a critical juncture. The timing of Trump's criticism, so close to the Kyiv attack, raised eyebrows. Some speculated that it was a deliberate attempt to weaken Zelensky's position. Others saw it as further evidence of Trump's erratic foreign policy. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Russian state TV was painting a very different picture. They downplayed the severity of the Kyiv attack. They dismissed Trump's "Vladimir, stop" message as inconsequential. Before Trump's plea, Russian media had been celebrating what they perceived as Trump's softening stance on Ukraine. They highlighted his recent statement acknowledging Crimea as part of Russia. They interpreted it as a sign that the United States was abandoning Ukraine. They also seized on comments made by other US officials. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had both hinted at the possibility of the United States withdrawing support from Ukraine. These statements, taken out of context, were used to bolster the narrative that the United States was no longer committed to defending Ukraine. Section 6. America's role: Peacemaker or Bystander. The attack on Kyiv occurred against a backdrop of fragile peace talks. The US had been involved in mediating these talks, but its role had been far from straightforward. Just days before the attack, the Trump administration had threatened to withdraw from the peace talks. They accused Russia of not negotiating in good faith. This move was met with concern by the international community. Many feared it would derail the peace process entirely. The attack on Kyiv only served to heighten these anxieties. It raised serious questions about the US's commitment to finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Section 7. Vladimir, stop. A viral sensation. Trump's "Vladimir, stop" message quickly went viral. It became the subject of countless memes and online discussions. Some found it humorous, a sign of Trump's inexperience on the world stage. Others found it embarrassing, a simplistic response to a complex crisis. The viral nature of the message highlighted the absurdity of the situation. Here was the leader of the free world, reduced to pleading with his Russian counterpart on social media. It was a far cry from the image of strength and diplomacy that the US traditionally projected. Despite its viral fame, the message did little to change the situation on the ground. The fighting in Ukraine continued. Section 8. The uncertain future of US-Russia-Ukraine relations. The Kyiv attack and its aftermath left the future of US-Russia-Ukraine relations more uncertain than ever. Trump's public rebuke of Putin, while notable, did not necessarily signal a shift in US policy. The US's commitment to the peace process remained unclear. Its relationship with Ukraine was strained, and its rivalry with Russia showed no signs of abating. The international community watched nervously. The stakes were high. The future of Ukraine, and indeed the world, hung in the balance. Section 9. A world holding its breath. The attack on Kyiv was a stark reminder that the conflict in Ukraine is far from over. It highlighted the fragility of peace and the volatile nature of international relations. The world held its breath, waiting to see what the future holds. Will the US step up and take a more decisive role in ending the conflict? Will Russia face further consequences for its actions? And will Ukraine ever find the peace and security it so desperately needs? Only time will tell.